giant rat, it's going to eat me. Hello, welcome to Bad at Board Games. My name's Brad Lake, and I'm bad at board games, so you don't have to be. As you can see, I am in the middle of not even all of Oathsworn. This is not all of it. This is just partial of it. But we got the 3 big boxes, I guess, and other stuff around to try to go through and review Oathsworn. I'm sure you've heard it's the best game ever, and I have finally gotten through 10 plays of it and have time to sit down and talk to you. So 10 plays, I mean, I'm halfway through the campaign. So we're on campaign number 11 and the whole story. There's story number 11, and there's 21 total, so I've got 10 left. So I felt like I've got enough hours. It's about between 30 and 40 hours of play, and I can give you a good deep dive or, my thoughts on this. I'm also going to be doing a Oathsworn versus KDM, and which one I prefer, and then which one, might help you kind of decide if you're looking at one of those two systems, which one would be right for you. So to start off, this is from Shadowborn Games, and I'm going to reference my notes, so I apologize. And it's designed by James Jolly. And the first Kickstarter did well, and then it got such great reviews that they immediately turned around and had a second Kickstarter to allow you to buy into the system. And they did a great job of getting this to you in less than a year. Like, they had everything. They didn't try to, they balanced the priest and a couple other things, but for the most part, they just let it rip, get it back in production, and got it back out. So, if you can't find this right now, they will probably have another reprint of this. This is doing extremely well. The theme of this, I would kind of call this low to mid fantasy setting, and it's got a magic system in it. So it's not like high fantasy and elves and all this. Feels more, my mind, like this, beaten down area. The woods have taken over the entire world, except for these bastions of cities that still exist. To traverse from one city to another, they've got this big, thick wire that you're supposed to be able to find, even though it keeps getting overgrown. And you kind of follow that wire to be able to go from one city to the next. And you are the Oathsworn. You have taken the oath to protect the cities, and that brings a certain status with it. And you're tough, and you are kind of experts. I think of it kind of like you're a team of witchers almost, because you have the expertise of the different monsters and understand their pros and cons and how they fight. And so there's the mechanics in this kind of like lean into that a bit, because you can see what the battle system of the monster you're fighting, and then you're going to be able to see some of the action cards that come up. So pretty cool. I like it. And then they've thrown every mechanic in the kitchen sink at this. I'm not going to put up the normal words because there's so many, but they're saying you've got action points. We have card play. You're playing cards for conflict resolution. You can also roll dice. It's cooperative. And then you've got deck, bag, and pool building. I would say it's more of a pool builder. You've got resources that you can add to your character board, and those tokens allow you to have like an extra armor or an extra roll or an extra dice, something like that. We have dice rolling, or if you choose, you can do all your numbering system through cards and kind of like do card counting. And then hand management, you're definitely going to be doing that with the cards that you have, the abilities that you have in your hand, and how you're going to play them and when you're going to play them. There's a hex grid for the boss battle system. It's a boss battle game with a story in between. And then it's a legacy game, but you could play through this again. So it's not like a legacy game in which you're not going to be able to do tearing up cards and doing things like that. So I don't necessarily believe that. It's a campaign game. And then modular board, I don't you're going to be setting up the board differently, but the board's not modular. It's the same battle map. And then we've got push your luck to try to beat the boss. Pattern recognition, they're calling that a mechanic. Got some role playing, but I don't really feel like this is anything like D&D. I don't feel like I'm playing role playing. And then you got scenario mission based campaigns, storytelling, and variable player power. Like I said, they threw every mechanic in the kitchen sink at this game. So player count, this is 2 to 4. I can't tell you the best player count. It is solo, but you're going to solo 4-handed. I've only played this at 1 and 4. I've probably played the first 5 campaigns myself, and then I got to a boss or a battle. I was like, needed my friend Ashby to come in and kind of help, because he can kind of see things a little bit differently and help puzzle things out, and we work well together. And then from 5 to 11, we've then played it as a team, and I liked that. I like it at 2. I think campaigns, anytime I've tried to have a Warhammer 40K campaign or something, like, it's kind of like herding cats. It's hard to get everybody together. So if you want to consistently kind of mash through this, I'd say you and a buddy, you and your partner or wife, whatever, to enjoy the game, be able to, like, once a week or every couple weeks, something like that, to get it played. I think you could enjoy it at 4, but that may be, hey, everybody's around at 4, you teach them the game, and they'll be in for one boss battle versus the whole ecosystem of the storytelling and everything. So I think the boss battle, I think you could play at 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, or 4, but I wouldn't necessarily hold everybody around to try to do a whole campaign. But you have to know your group and who you have available. I don't have any friends. Like I said, it is solo. I played the first 5 scenarios solo. Felt like that was hard. I played 2-handed, and then their autonoma that they have that makes it easier to have the 4 characters. Going back, I might have had just like 3 autonoma and 1-handed it, so to speak. You will always have to have 4 characters in your boss battles, so you can't just like solo it. But the autonoma that they have, it's not autonoma, but they make it an easier version to have an extra person. So I might do that, but I really enjoy Ashby and I. We both play 1 character and then having an easy character to play, autonoma, and Ashby's got 1 character to play in the autonoma, so to speak. And I say autonoma lightly because you're still controlling it, but it's just, instead of having to play all the cards and pick each card and understand and maximize that, they've made it so much simpler. You can just be like, I'm going to move and then I'm going to attack, or I'm going to move and then I'm going to heal. Their system is a lot easier to manage. I almost wonder if just using 4 characters that way might be kind of fun and easier. And I don't normally talk about the time to play, but they advertise on here it is 90 minutes. That's a lie. This is not a 90-minute game. No, it's just not. Let's see. I saw it somewhere. Yeah. So no, it's not 90 minutes. So a boss battle, just the battle itself might be 90 minutes, but maybe you could die. It can go longer, but yeah, but not the whole, like a session where you're sitting down and doing I call it the kind of campaign story time, and then the boss battle. Nowhere near 90 minutes. Turn overview. So this is kind of hard to explain. Normally I would just, like in a regular board game, I'd tell you, like, you're going to take action points and you're going to do this and you're going to do that. And I kind of have the wording right here. There's so much going on with this, and depending on which stage, there's different actions. So I'm just going to kind of break it down high level. First, you're going to start out with a map, and you're going to go through a map phase, and the map phase is going to have a time tracker here, and this time tracker, the events on it will be in the app. And I guess that's an important thing to note. During this whole time, I really recommend. Well, for me, I kind of need an iPad and or some kind of tablet. The phone just seems too small, and especially if you're with somebody else, you're still going to be able to hear it. It's narrated for you by the actor from Game of Thrones, who was the head of the Night Watch before they killed him. Um, Great voice actor, does a really nice job, and you're going to listen to all that, but you're going to be picking scenarios. Do you want to go here? Do you want to go there? Or do you want to fight this guy? Or do you want to save him? Or do you want to just ignore it? So you're having those A, B, and C pick options as you go through the story portion of it, and then that's going to allow you to pick up tokens that'll give you like extra armor during your next encounter, or rerolls, or the different kinds of encounter dice. So that is that's one section of it. And then when you go to each building, it'll be another one of these pick A, B, or C when you go in and check it out. And typically during those map phases, you're trying to find something or find someone, or get information. You're kind of trying to be a detective, so they break it up into different ways. So it's not always every time you go into a story situation, you think of yourself as a detective, and you're trying to do something that's going to help you with the encounter, so that you might learn something better before you go into the encounter, or just learn more about what's going on in the story. So that's one section, and that whole thing before you get to a boss battle and I find it's taking 60 to 90 minutes. Like from the start, when you're really going through and doing everything, to when it finally says dun dun, time to fight the boss, and grab episode 1, right? That's a very long time. You are, it's not like this short amount of time where you're just reading a couple things and then you're going into it. Now, one of the things I like, if you want, and I haven't done this yet, but if you want to just read one page of the story and then go to the boss battle, this will save you a lot of time. You could probably read this in about 10 to 20 minutes, depending on how fast you read, maybe 30 minutes, as you're trying to understand it. But it's not going to give you all the A and B actions that you would have and trying to search and go through all the detective side of things during the map. So they do give you that option. I would say that's a good thing about this game. So understand that's half the game that you're going to be going through and doing this. And then the other half is the boss battle. So each scenario, and this is the rat, and everybody's seen the rat, so I'm not spoiling anything. You're going to place dice on, like this character would have 5 dice, and they have 6 health points per dice location. And then this card tells you what they're going to do and how they're going to do it. And then they have another set of cards. And let's see if I can find the cards. I probably can't. Come here, cards. Yeah. All right. So they're going to have a stack of attack cards. Sorry, maybe I'll cut this out. Maybe I won't. But now I'm pretty sure there's probably some more stuck in here somewhere. But these are the cards that this rat are going to draw as you shuffle them, and then you're going to take that action. Now the cards also, kind of like Pandemic-esque, there's a level 1 card, level 2, and level 3, and you shuffle them in that order. So as you start going down through the boss deck, the cards that are going to show up get more and more difficult. So that's a mechanic that's happening during that. And you're going to go back and forth with the boss. And I'm still just trying to explain what you're doing on your turn, right? So it's a boss battle. The monster goes, you go. Or you go, the monster goes. And that very first time, depending on how you played with the story, you could have gotten ambushed. So the monster's going to go first and you're caught flat-footed. Or you made sure that you had somebody stay awake, when everybody else was sleeping, and you weren't surprised in the middle of the night, right? And so you're going to go first. But those cards that are going to come out, you're going to see what the next one is. So it ends up being this pattern. You know what the boss is going to do next. So then there's the puzzle of how do you go and break down the different areas of the boss, because this boss has 4 dice around it, front, left, right, and rear, and then a center, and you have to break down all of that before you can get to the center, and then once you destroy the center, you've killed the boss. So you're trying, it's a dance, right? And in doing so, on your turn, you're going to play these cards. Now the difference with this game, and they call it a battle flow, is when you're attacking, it tells you how much animus, and I believe that's how you pronounce that, which are the little gems from Lost Ruins of Arnak. You need to pay to then, use that ability on the card. And like this one is the card that you always have to have, and it has different levels, but most of the others are to do this action. It's going to tell you in the top here how many animus you have to pay, but then there can be a second action at the bottom that may cost more or less, but it's not going to be as powerful. If it costs less, it's not as powerful. If it costs more, it would be more powerful. So these cards they use as a battle flow system, and on your tableau, you're going to place this in, one of 3 spots, and then they don't move. And this is where it gets interesting, and I don't want to bore you with it, and it'd be better to go watch a tutorial on this, but I'll put cards out. They go around your tableau, either in the right, which is number 3, on the top, which is number 2, and on the left, which is number 1. Those don't move until you play another card to the 3 spot, 2 spot, or 1, and then they call it a battle flow. Those cards then shift to the next position, but they don't shift everything. So if you place something on 3, that stack that's on the 3 then moves to the number 2 spot, but the number 2 and number 1 don't flow out. And that may make no sense to you whatsoever. However, that's the battle flow system. You're trying to flow cards back into your hand. You start with 7 or 8, and you're going to have to pick these cards. Sometimes you're going to, in the story phase, know if you're fighting more of a hand-to-hand close-up guy and you want to stay at range, or sometimes they may have minions, and depending on during your discovery, if you learn that, you'll be able to kind of set up your battle flow cards in a way before the boss monster fight to kind of like, I'm going to make sure I pick the best cards for this fight. Now, sometimes it's going to say, you didn't learn enough, pick your cards, and then reveal the boss. And so you don't know what that boss is capable of doing, if it's going to have like 10 minions, or if it's just going to be him or her, whatever it is, the monster. So that's interesting way, and I think it goes really well with the game, because you didn't learn enough, and now you're just like, well, you better be a good generalist because you don't know what you're going after, or you learned a lot during your discovery, and now you're going to be able to hone these cards in on the boss that you're fighting. Now it's not like you're really going to hone in that much. You don't have that many cards, but it does kind of give you like, do you want to be range or do you want to be melee? Do you want to be able to fight minions, or do you just want to be able to go and pound the boss? So it's kind of in that realm of differentiation. So that is kind of the boss battle in and of itself. The monster has predetermined moves that you're going to see what's going to happen when it's on your turn. So, like I said, it's just you going back and forth. And then the way you attack, you can either use these cards, which made me really feel like one of the reasons I wasn't going to get this the first time at Kickstarter, one, because it was another campaign, and I was really trying to avoid any campaign games because I didn't feel like I had the time, and now I've got 2 of these. But, you can use these cards, which is very Gloomhaven-esque. It's not Gloomhaven-esque. It's Gloomhaven. They just don't have those cards are Gloomhaven. I don't know. I kind of felt like, hey, you guys are really cheating on that. But, there's different levels of cards. Unlike Gloomhaven, Gloomhaven just has a stack. The white ones aren't as powerful as the yellow ones, and the yellow ones aren't as powerful as the red ones, and the red ones aren't as powerful as the black ones. Now, they also give you the ability to just roll dice. And I end up just doing this. So during the story campaign, you can roll dice or draw cards to try to be successful within the story and the map. Me and Ashby have found that we'll use the cards for that. During the battle, we just like picking up the dice that we're rolling and roll them. Now, the interesting thing about this mechanic and how they do that is that if you have 2 misses, so you have 2 blanks, so the higher up you go, you still have a 30% chance of missing. I think all of these, yeah. So no matter which dice you're picking, unless they're all going to have a 30% chance of missing, you're going to completely miss. So 2 blanks, if you roll 10 dice, you're more than likely going to roll 2 blanks, 30% chance. So you typically end up rolling like this 5 range to give you the best odds really of not missing, but you still will, but then you can have some reroll tokens and things like that. So then that starts to wear the boss down. And I'm not going to get into all of it, but there's more to it than that. It's not just rolling and then being like, oh, I rolled a 12, so I do 12 damage. The boss has armor. You divide the armor by the number of hits you had and how much strength it was, and then you're going to reduce the armor on this. So there's a lot going on. And that's where I think I found that I enjoyed having Ashby there, because then it was more manageable. I only had to worry about my main character and battle flowing the cards that I had, and then the autonoma, easier, secondary character that I had, and the same with Ashby. But we were also able to be like, okay, well, this is what the boss is going to do next after our turn. How are we going to manage that, right? And then the boss is going to go, and then it's going to move, and then it's going to reveal another card. So how do I summarize that up? I play cards, all my people go, and they don't have to go in complete order. I guess this is a distinction. You're going to have animus. You may have 6 of them. You could spend 2 to move. Then somebody else could move, attack, completely do their turn. Then you come back. So it's not like I go, the other person goes. You get to figure out how best to manage that monster, and you can break up your moves in any way. So that's pretty cool. A lot of games are like, you go, you use all your moves, and if you don't use them, you've wasted them. That is not how KDM is like that. It is not how it is in this game. You have a pool of resources, and as you use those resources, action, the little coins or little animus, Lost Runes of Arnak tokens, those just basically keep track of your action points that you have on your turn. And I can use 2, and then somebody else can use 2 of theirs, and I can come back and use 2 of mine, and somebody else can do something and finish their turn. Then I can come back and like finish and use all the rest of mine. So just think of it that way. You've got 4 characters doing that. And then the boss goes, and the boss basically follows what's on here. It's going to tell you which dice to roll when they finally attack. The boss moves a lot. This boss actually has minions, and the minions act in a certain way. All of that and how they move, who they pick for their closest target, all of that's described in the rule book, but they actually have a very good teach, and I'll get that in with my pros and cons. So this is a very long, like, what happens on your turn, but there's a lot going on here. It's hard to explain, without like doing a teach of what's going on in your turn. So there's just a lot going on. Now onto our pros. So Oathsworn has a different monster every scenario. So you're not repeating that, or it gives you a little bit of a difference. Like every scenario is different. You have 2 full boxes of monsters. If you got the Standee version, you're going to have a different Standee for every monster. So you're going to have 21 monsters out of 20 or 21 scenarios. The minis are already put together. They're push fit. So like, did have to put the trees together, but for the most part, every time you pull a boss out, it's already assembled. This can be a pro and a con. I would say if you don't like putting miniatures together, you don't have any experience putting miniatures together, you're going to like the fact that this is already put together, and you can just pick it up and go. It doesn't take any time in that sense that you have to pre-build it. It's a mystery. Once you open up the box, there it is. You had no idea what it was, and you don't have to, put it together for an hour. So that's definitely a pro. There's great voice acting in the app. So he does do a great job. He was a good actor, and you don't realize how, he's not James Earl Jones, but he's got one of those James Earl Jones voices where it's just like, what the Night Watch and the Oathsworn and such. He's really good at that. So the other pro of this is, like, by scenario 2, this may be one of the best peaks, highlights, disasters, whatever you want to call it, twists in a game that I've ever experienced. I think it is just like way up high. You feel like it does a great job with the acting in the app and the voice acting and what's going on, and it just ends in this like, oh, I cannot believe, wow. Now, the con to that, and it's like a 10, you're, no wonder this is great. Now, it fails to get back to that. I'm halfway through the game and it never gets back to that. And so, I'll kind of call that this is the beginning of my cons, is that it sets such a high bar so early. And I think if you don't, if people only play the first 3 to 5 scenarios, they'll probably say, like, that's why it is a 10 out of 10 or a 9 out of 10. If you start playing the whole thing, it never quite gets back to that. So that's kind of the beginning of my con. And then the cons, kind of like and this is me, and I don't know if you're good about getting games out. I kind of have to have a dedicated table for this. So I've got sawhorses down here in my basement. I've got a 40K map, or a board out, which is 6 feet by 4 feet, and I leave this out. And then I've even got a little side table for all these things. I take half the main box that has all these monster cards in it and holds all your events and weapons, upgrades, everything, the encounters, all of this. All this goes into this little box, and not a little box, one of these boxes. And I have that sitting on the side, so when I'm going through it, and then all of these books that you're going to possibly use or not. Like, I haven't used these two, but this is like the second half, and these, which look nice, they're part of the app, so you never pull them out. But you're going to be referencing, the setup. Am I in the cons? I don't know. It's a beast. It is not pretty. It is not organized, and even if you try to organize it, it's still just like sprawling all over the place. And for me, I have to have this out to be able to just so it doesn't add another hour of setup time just to get through it. So be aware of that. I do that with Kingdom Death 2. I'm lucky to have a basement that is mine, essentially, and my kids. So, I can leave this out. I have the space for it. You may or may not. So that's a con. You'll just need to be aware of that. There's a lot of setup to this if you don't. The time between boss battles, to me, is a con. At first, it's really great, and the story's really driving, and I've gotten to the point where I kind of just want to get through the story to get to the boss battle. They've got some puzzles in there, which sometimes are interesting. But I kind of find it lacklusting, and I think it's just like, I want it to go faster. I feel like the story time in between the boss battles is longer than I want it to be. I just want to be able to, like, give me a synopsis of the story. And I think, with Ashby, if I didn't have Ashby playing with it, I think I would probably spend the last half of the campaign just reading the summary page and then going and doing the boss battle, because that would reduce the amount of time. I really felt like there was a couple of scenarios in there where you're traversing through the woods And we've all seen this mechanic where you're placing these pieces down and making a map as you go through it, so it's like this mystery direction, and you're telling the app which direction you're going as you're trying to get to, this hidden place in the woods or whatever. It went on forever, and I just want, like, I wasn't picking the right things and I was getting stuck and having to go back, and like, there are points like that. Is like, I just want that. I didn't need all that. I didn't need it to be that long. The game's a boss battle or the game's a story. I don't need this little mystery maze in between it. I just thought, and it feels like it happens more often than not. I want that story time to probably be like 40 minutes, and it ends up being 90 minutes. So that's a con for me. And then Oathsworn, this kind of gets into Oathsworn versus KDM. You're not RPGing this. You are not these. I don't ever feel like I'm these characters. I think Gloomhaven, I kind of felt like I was the characters more than these. I just feel like, okay, I'm not playing as or role playing as the huntress. I'm not role playing as the warbear. I just have this character and I'm moving them around, and it's not much different than like the monsters. I don't feel as much connected to, even as I level these characters, because you don't get that many options with the cards. It's like you've hit level 5, so you get these cards. You're not like picking and choosing which level 5 cards you want until you go to the boss battle and then you pick. So, you're not leaning into the role playing side. So, for me, that it just doesn't connect me as much to the characters that you're playing in the game. This is picky, but I think they've got like both KDM and this suffer from massive amounts of keywords, and then not everything being summarized in a way that's easy to go find it. Like, I would say 80% of what you need is in here, and it tells you which page to go to, and then you look for it. But I would really like a better summary of this, so that as I play the scenario, I know what's here and what's there. Or what might be nice, because each scenario is like one monster, is just like, give me the when you're going to this battle area, I would have loved if they had, here's your quick sheet, here's the battle setup area, and then on the next page is like, here's all the specific things that you're going to encounter that are specific to this scenario, so you don't have to go and look them all up. This monster, the keywords that are there. That probably would have been nice. And streamlined it a little bit, so you don't stop and be like, okay, what am I doing? And I got to look up that. And there, between this and Kingdom Death Monster, there's a lot of that. You're going to stop and look up a lot of stuff. And I complained about that in Massive Darkness. Massive Darkness should be I don't have to do that game. Like, Massive Darkness is not Oathsworn. Massive Darkness is not KDM. And it should just be slightly more than beer and pretzels. But then it was like, oh, I don't understand that rule, or I have to look this up, so forth and so on. So I will always have that kind of nitpick with them. Painting them, a con. Now, some people are painting these beautifully. I would argue, I wanted to paint these, but then I'm like, why am I going to paint this rat if I'm never going to fight it again? And then take that amount of time out to then wanting to get through the story and wanting to play the game and being another barrier to entrance. Could paint the trees, can paint your characters that you're going to be, but for the most part, the monsters, which are like, I always find the cool thing to paint, I'm never going to play them again in the entire scenario. So why? So that's kind of a con for what it's worth. All right, so this is a very long video. Sorry about that. The weight rating on this, we've got BGG says this is a 3.62. I would kind of agree. So like, Lacerda's, and there's games that are like really heavyweight because it's like you do this, do this, do this, do this, do this. The barrier to entry of this is the same. So like learning the game, watching through the playthrough, which they have an amazing playthrough. Like they, whoever created that, pretty sure Shadowborn Games paid somebody to create this great animated how to play each step. There's like 4 or 5 videos, during the battle phase. That is really good. It's not all encompassing, but it really starts to help you understand how to play the game. 90% of it's there and vetted out. So I think to learn this game, this is still like a 4 weight rating, maybe a 4.5 for weight rating. Once you understand it, it drops down to where I would say this is landing at that 3.6. Still a lot going on. You still have to look up keywords. If you're used to battle systems, you're kind of going to be used to, okay, I got to stop and remember what this means or what that is going to do, because like I said, you're not going to continue to see it each and every battle, but when it comes up, you're like, oh, I remember that was there, but I kind of forgot about it. So that's, where I'm rating it on the weight. The value rating, like, this is $350, $400. Now I did get the all-in. I love these dice. These dice are beautiful. No, not $350 dice, but compared to the regular dice you're getting. And then it came with the dice tray and storybook, and I'm not sure if the base game has the spiral, but like I said, I'm not using this because it has an app. So you don't need the all-in. I like the trees. I like the terrain. The weapons pack. Do I have the weapons pack? Yeah. So the weapons, you can actually upgrade your characters and actually change the weapons they're using because they're push fit. I haven't done it. Ashby hasn't done it. We haven't actually opened this box to like, oh, I've gone from a warhammer to a spear, or I've gone to a sword or something like that. It's just one more thing, and I think if it might be something you do, you might get real into it, but for the most part, it's kind of like not doing it. I want to continue to play the game. There's so many other things that are slowing me down that I don't want to just sit there and then like change out the weapons I'm using each scenario. I don't need that extra 5 or 10 minutes of time. The deluxe version does come with these wonderful bags for a couple of them, versus everything else is kind of like this cheap cloth that goes with it. So is it worth it? I am not unhappy with how much I spent on this. So this is a massive investment. So if you look at, are you rating something? I usually rate it on plays. So if I spent let's say I spent $400 on this with shipping and everything. So I've played it 10 times. So right now it's at $40 a play. I need to, I want to play this 20 times so I can get that down to 20. But then I'm not going to be able to get down to $10 a play like I would like. Unless I like restart the scenario and then all the mysteries kind of taken away, and I could use different characters and stuff, but I don't know if I ever will. So that kind of is a knock. I would say it's worth it. It's a 3 out of 5. If this were like $100, $200, I would even say it's a 5 out of 5. But at $350, $400, if you're paying for shipping, all in, mind you, this is all in. I'm gonna have to say this is a 3. It's not a bad deal. It's not. I felt like I got what I wanted out of it, so I would say it's a 3. But if you want just the experience and you don't care about all this, and you got the Standee version, that's probably a 4 out of 5, maybe even a 5 out of 5 for the price that you're getting and the experience that you're getting out of it. I do just like the terrain pack. Like if I was going to have the Standees, I would want the terrain where you got the 3 trees and the couple houses and some of that. I do like seeing that, but I think that's from my Warhammer 40K days. Because I have tons and tons of terrain for Warhammer. So my value rating for the base game, 4 out of 5. My value rating for all this massive amount, $350, $400, is going to be a 3. Did you know 70% of you aren't subscribed? Hit that subscribe button. We do fun board game stuff here. BGG rating. BGG says this is a 9.1, and I can see where people are going to rate this. They're going to rate it a 10. Now, I'm curious if all those people that are rating it a 10 have gotten through half or even all of the campaign, because like I said, if you get through the first 5 scenarios and you stop, it's a 10. Like, you know, you're going to have, if you play the first couple of scenarios, you're, you know, it hits a 10 immediately, and then it kind of comes down. But that whole first act, I think, is a great story. It's a great monsters that are going in and through that, and what's happening. So, but then I'm like, it doesn't quite hit that. You're kind of waiting for the next wave, and I don't know, you know, maybe it's going to happen between 11 and 15, and then I'll come back and tell you like, oh no, it's still good. But I'm definitely more in this, like, you know, 8 out of 10 versus this 10 out of 10 where it starts. My overall rating, I'm sorry, I'm looking at my notes as I go off camera, but you know, I sit here and I'm like, this is a good game, and it's better, and I would want to play this if somebody asked to play it. So I'm going to give this an 8. I think this is a very solid game. I am not, you know, I wanted this to be like, I wanted it to be a 9 for me. I wanted it to be this 10 out of 10 for me. And I think that, to me, it's, you know, the story where it starts off as a 10, then kind of like drops, and it's good, and voice acting's great, but I still don't think I'm like, rah! You know, like the experience isn't like, oh, you know, this is the best game ever, you know, but I do really enjoy it. I'll take that back. I enjoy it. I wanted to enjoy it more. So that's why it's sitting at an 8. I think I think I had decent expectations. I don't think I went in it with super high expectations, but I did end up playing this and KDM at the same time. So that's kind of like made me realize they wanted this to be KDM a little bit more accessible, and it is. And by doing that, I think, you know, the people who don't want anything to do with KDM or don't want to, you know, invest in that, even though they're the same price, you know, this is a good system for all those people. That's why I got it. But then I kept wanting KDM and looking at KDM and blah, blah, blah. And then I thought this wasn't going to be arriving until like December of last year. And so I picked up KDM used, or it wasn't even used. I just talked to the owner and got a deal on it. And then this showed up a week later. So then I'm sitting there comparing both systems, and, you know, how excited I was with both of them, and one edged out the other. So like I said, I'm wishy-washy on this, but I'm landing at an 8. I think if you like Gloomhaven, if you liked other games like that, and you want something more of a boss battler, because this is a boss battler with a story in between, even though it's a very long story in between. Gloomhaven was more dungeon diving, and you're literally like, to me, it's D&D in a box. You're getting new characters, you're leveling them up, you're getting things, and how you know that card system's different than this card system. So this is a combination of Gloomhaven and KDM, and trying to be more accessible than KDM, but more of a boss battler than Gloomhaven. So it kind of sits nicely in between the two. But 8 out of 10. Flame me in the comments. Whatever you think. What do you think? This is a long video. I may have rambled way too much. There's so much going on in this that it's hard to kind of like break it out. I am going to do, like I said, a KDM versus Oathsworn video as well, and try to break up as best and succinctly as I can, at least give you maybe the top 10 reasons why you might like this over KDM, or why I like one versus the other. So subscribe, like, all those kind of fun things so that you don't miss that. Anyway, have a great day, and comment down below and let me know what you think about this. And just remember, no matter how you play, whether it's solo, with family, or friends, enjoy whatever you are bringing to the table. Have a great night.